Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session. I'll just start sharing my screen and we'll get started with the presentation. Okay, so my name is Emilie DeRochie, and I'll be presenting to you today about the Great River Rapport's Changemaker series. I encourage you to ask questions in the chat or make comments throughout the presentation, and there will be a question and answer period at the end of the session. So I'll give a little overview of what to expect in today's presentation. First, I'll give a self-introduction. What is my background? Why I'm here today? I'll then introduce the River Institute, which is where I work and where the Great River Rapport project is based. I will then introduce to you the education materials and specifically the Changemaker series. I'm actually just going to double check that the sound is going through okay, just to make sure all is good. Yes, it is. Okay, apologies. There we go. Okay. So my name is Emilie DeRochie, like I said. So I have a background in environmental studies and biology. That was my undergrad degree. And then I pursued a Bachelor of Education where I became qualified to teach intermediate and senior grades. So I have become qualified in biology, geography, general science, environmental science, and career education. So I've spent time in grades 7 to 12 classrooms. I've taught a whole bunch of different subjects and a great experience every time, lots of learning opportunities for myself. And I've also started teaching at St. Lawrence College in Cornwall. So I teach biology for the environmental technician program. So I'm currently working for the River Institute, and I am the River Strategy Coordinator and an educator for the Great River Rapport team. You'll also notice on the slide here, there's an OceanWise logo. So I'm also currently an Ocean Bridge ambassador. So what is the River Institute? You may have heard of us before, maybe you haven't, that's okay. So it is a small but mighty organization located on the shores of the St. Lawrence River. We are located in Cornwall, right on the St. Lawrence College campus. So this is a photo that represents a lot of different things that happen at the River Institute, but not all. So we are a research, outreach, and education institution. So you can see here, there's high school students looking at macroinvertebrates, one of our partners sampling water in the St. Lawrence River, some field techs collecting fish in a seine net, a student, a junior scientist, helping with bringing water samples to a really cool ship, people flying a drone, and then a little boy learning about fish identification. So these are a whole bunch of things that happen at the River Institute, but not all. The River Rapport project, which I will speak to next, is one part of many things at the River Institute. So the Great River Rapport is structured in a way that it will hopefully engage a large variety of people from the community to scientists, artists, and now we're hoping to engage more youth and educators. So this is our River Rapport team, and this is not even everyone who's been involved since the project's begun. There's been so many people, from research scientists to research assistants, to web developers, to visual artists, educators, and many, many more. This project would not be the same without all of these individuals. This project also has many collaborators. We have all the logos that you see here on the screen and more. We'd like to highlight the partnership we have with the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne's Environment Program as well. And this project would not be possible without our very generous funders, namely the RBC Foundation, MyTax, and the Government of Canada. Okay, so the Great River Rapport project, what is it? So it is actually an ecosystem health report. And it was born because of a question in which our executive director, Jeff Riedel, was often asked, and that was, what's the health of the St. Lawrence River? And the answer is, it's complicated. It's very complicated. So Jeff thought it's time that there's an ecosystem health report to report to the public about the health of the river. Hence, the Great River Rapport was born. So the report is based on the Gundulawanum, which is the upper St. Lawrence River. So this is from the Thousand Islands, right before we reach Lake Ontario, down to Montreal or Lake St. Francis. Although the project is focused on reporting the health of this part of the river and this area, We hope that this project is relevant to people, communities, everyone, anywhere in the world. So this project is being led by Dr. Lee McGahee and is being done in a community-driven approach. So this project is being framed in the Henton Haladakwa, and it was recommended to be framed this way by Dr. Henry Lickers, who's been involved in the project since the very, very beginning. So what is this Henton Haladakwa? It gives thanks to all elements of creation. It's something that the Haudenosaunee people say before big meetings to remind everyone that we are all connected. Having the project framed in this way helps to remind us that we are all connected to the river, the whole idea behind this project. So this project, as I've mentioned, is being done in partnership with the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne. Many individuals at MCA and the community of Akwesasne have been involved in the project since it's begun. It would not be possible, or we would not be here without them. So namely, Abraham Francis has been a massive consultant on the project. And then we have Megan Mitchell below. So she was one of Dr. Lee McGahee's first summer students on the project, and she would go around the community of Akwesasne and learn about the concerns of the community when it comes to the river. We also have Kayla Sunday and Jessica Dolan, who are involved in the project now as well. So in framing the project in the Henton Haladakwa, there's an Indigenous art component as well. So an artist from Akwesasne, Victoria Ransom, drew the different levels of the Thanksgiving address. So there's 16 of them, and they're all in the center photo there. So if you look to the top right corner, that's representing the people. Below that, the blue one, that represents the fish. And below that, Grandmother Moon. In the center, that is actually a cover of a book that the River Rapport is releasing that highlights the levels of the Thanksgiving address, the Henton Haladakwa, and Victoria's art. So this is actually going to be released soon, so you can stay tuned for that. Okay, so what about the ecosystem health report, the science? So we had to decide on indicators of ecosystem health, and this is different for every region. So we brought together scientists, and like 50 of them, to be involved in this selection process. But what is an indicator? So it's a way to convey information about the health of an ecosystem. So for example, to give context, say there's a declining population of some species. That can indicate to us that there's something affecting the system. However, that's not always the case. But by selecting indicators that are specific to the St. Lawrence River, scientists can assess the relative health of the ecosystem. So indicators are not going to be the same in every region. So the Gulf of the St. Lawrence will likely need to have different indicators of ecosystem health, for example. So there is a specific process in selecting these indicators of ecosystem health to report to the public. First, the relevance. Are they relevant to this region? Are people concerned about it? Data availability. Is there enough data about this specific indicator, say water quality, to write an entire report about it? Next, is it important to the public? Do people care? So Dr. Lee McGahee actually put surveys out to the public and asked about what their concerns and what they valued for the river. So was it important to the public? And then finally, the sensitivity to change. So after much thinking, collaborations with many scientists, 35 indicators were decided upon. So this took a while to chop back. There's, I think, 70 selected at first, and we had to bring it down. So 35 indicators. So we have the yellow perch and the northern pike almost ready to be released to the public, the technical reports. So these reports take quite some time to put together because it's bringing together all the data from the upper St. Lawrence River. So there's a whole bunch of different jurisdictions and people working on the river. So it's to bring all that data together to report on it. So we're very excited to start releasing these to the public and share them with you. With this, we also have 10 community stories. So it's to highlight the people of the river. So these are people that are deeply connected to the river. So we profiled them, took photos of them, and shared their story and how they're connected. So we have people that are divers, that see the bottom of the river in places most of us has probably never seen before. Abraham Francis, who's all about the community of Akwesasne. A fur trapper, a young naturalist, a young angler, and then someone that knows where all the best duck hunting spots are. So we have all these different components of the Great River Rapport project, and we bring them all together. So the first example we have here is the yellow perch indicator. You'll notice that we have a visual infographic here too. So these technical reports also have a visual component to help people understand the results. We can relate the indicator to the Thanksgiving address and to a community story, such as Ian McIntosh, who's seen the perch populations fluctuate over the years. The Great River Rapport also does lots of community outreach and events. So you can see this top photo here, that's Jackie. She used to be a part of the Great River Rapport team, and she is actually doing surveys about what the public cares about for the river in the early stages of this project. Below that is a photo from one of the Great River Rapport workshops. So the Great River Rapport hosted 17 workshops that all related to indicators of the technical report. So in this case, this was an art event by Christine Fitzgerald at the River Institute this summer. And it had different things to represent the indicators. So we have some fake turtles, there were plants, a whole bunch of things. And we had people go and make art with them. So we also had things like beaver skinning, monarch butterflies, tea tasting, and much more. We also do outreach through hosting an annual river symposium. So this is somewhat under the umbrella of the Great River Rapport, as many of our team members are a part of this process of getting this conference going. So the theme this year is Ways of Knowing, and this highlights the different knowledge systems along the river. So Indigenous knowledge, art, community knowledge, and so much more, and of course the science. So this is taking place on October 26th and 27th, and I actually have more information to come about this. Under the River Rapport umbrella, there's also the River Strategy. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is a part of my work role at the River Institute. So the idea is to be a hub for the river, for a place of communication, what work's being done, what data is available, what funding is available, just to be a hub for people to go to, like a website, and see what's going on in the river and how they can get involved. So that brings us to part number 2, our newest component of the Great River Rapport, and that is the education materials. So we're very excited. This is the first time that we share this with the public. So as I've mentioned prior, there has been education at the River Institute for years and years. So this was in the form of experiential learning. So having kids come to the River Institute and actually get in the water, collect bugs, fish, dissect them, and look at them. So we wanted to do something that was specific for the Great River Rapport, hence these materials being born. So we have specific goals for these River Rapport education materials. Number 1, to increase scientific literacy in youth, to increase youth that connect with nature, and to increase interest in careers in the field of environmental science. With this, we also have the goal of having these materials be relevant all over the world. So not just here on the St. Lawrence River, we want them to be relevant in India, the UK, Quebec, BC, wherever students are. Have them relate these concepts, these ideas, and change-making actions to their own communities, wherever they might be. So we have also 2 different series of materials that are coming out. We have the indicators. So these materials will have students engage with the technical reports and data. The idea is for students to increase scientific literacy and to increase interest in careers in the field of environmental science. There's more to come on these materials, hopefully next year for you. And then we have the Changemaker series, the main event for today, which has a goal of increasing youth that connect with nature, and then to increase the interest in careers in the field of environmental science. So before we continue for the main event, the Changemaker series, I'd like to hear from the participants that are present here today. So you'll notice there is a link in the chat to a Poll Everywhere link, and this is going to bring you to a word cloud. So the question I have for you is, what is the first word that you think of when you hear the term Changemaker? So I'll go and stop sharing my screen for a quick second, and I'll bring up Poll Everywhere so you can see the word cloud. This link will prompt you, if it's not working yet, not to worry. There we go. Here we go. So this will prompt you to, I think, enter your name. You can either enter your name or press skip, and then you can see the question. So there's already a whole bunch of words coming in. We have sustainability, planet, better. innovative, youth, earth, challenge. These are great words. Hope. Hope's a really good one. Sustainability. Fantastic. And as this is for educators, Pull Everywhere is a fantastic tool that I've used in classrooms before. Awesome. Inspire. Better. We'll give it a few more seconds for everyone to contribute. And as words get bigger, it means that more people are adding that word as well. Target. Awesome. So I'll head back to our presentation. Thank you to those who participated in this word cloud. It's a lot of people saying better. All right, so back to our presentation. So as you can see from that word cloud, there's a lot of different words that can represent the term change maker. And that is the whole idea behind this change maker series that I'm about to present to you, is that there's so many different words to describe a change maker that anyone can be a change maker. They just need to be inspired and take action. So here we are today to represent the Great River Rapport's Change Makers series. So these are our change makers that we have so far. The goal is to have 10. This is a cross-curricular case study story that is complemented by learning activities that is meant for grades 7 to 12. So these case studies, as you may infer, is a story about the individual. We have different subheadings in these stories. So we start off with an introduction. Who is this person? And it makes it a catchy little question for students to get excited to learn more. This is followed by a biography. So what is their background? What brought them to where they are today? This is followed by a subheading about their change-making actions. What makes them a change maker? And then each case study has a unique subheading, something that relates to the change maker's work. So for some change maker, that is traditional knowledge. For others, the one on the screen, for example, would be butterfly migration. This is followed by a conclusion where we speak about the change maker's idea of what a change maker is and their future hopes as a change maker. And you can see here this beautiful layout. So these stories also have keywords and definitions. By keywords, we mean words that not all students might recognize, or maybe it's highlighting an organization that they might not know about. So you can see the keywords are highlighted throughout the story, and that lets you know that there's a definition for it on the side, as you can see on this layout. So molten pupate, for example, for a monarch butterfly. And we also have the Toronto Entomologist Association and a link for students to explore more. Each layout also has one of the levels of the Thanksgiving address as a part of it as well, and the art. Finally, after the case study story, there is the learning activity. So this is the idea is to be the change maker in the classroom. So as you can see here, you teachers will be provided with a layout with a lesson plan, with a step-by-step guide of how to bring these learning activities into your classroom. This includes links to videos. It includes tips, modifications, and extensions. So the idea is for the student to then step into the shoes of a change maker and do some type of activity. So we will now introduce you to all of our change makers. We'll go through what a background of their story is. We'll look at their layout, and then we'll explore their learning activity. So up first, this is Christina Enright. The title of her case study is The Butterfly Effect. And we have a beautiful photo here with a little monarch caterpillar. All the photographs you're seeing today are by our very talented visual artist with the Great River Report team, Stephanie Hildebrand, as well as the slides and the layouts that you're about to see. So background on Christina is that after she injured her wrist, she wasn't able to work. And she found herself going for walks more often and noticing the nature that was around her. She then had a friend who had 2 little monarch caterpillars, and she said, would it be okay if I borrowed them? So she borrowed them, she watched them grow and change, and she started to get really fascinated by them, and she started to research them online as well. She got to know them really well and understand their challenges as well. So with this, she became an advocate for butterflies, monarch butterflies, and protecting milkweed, because that is the only food source for monarch caterpillars. So Christina actually was a part of one of our Great River Rapport workshops. So I attended one of these workshops, and I'm listening to her speak about her work. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, she is such a change maker. And I thought, wow, it'd be really neat to see more people take initiative like this. How can I be a change maker like her? And then I thought to myself, I guess I could use the tool that I have in my toolbox right now, and that's education. And that's kind of the idea of how the Changemaker series was born, was literally sitting at her workshop and thinking, this is amazing. Let's show the world her work. So we'll show you her layout. So you can see here we have a title page where we have a photo and a title, followed by the indigenous art of the Thanksgiving address with some words. And then you can see we have the story itself. So we have the different subheadings, the keywords, lots of beautiful visuals, and links for students to learn more about some aspects. So that brings us to our learning activity. So each learning activity will have discussion prompts. So this is where students are prompted to reflect on what makes the individual a change maker, what makes a change maker, and so on. Most learning activities have a video, so it's multimedia if it can be. In this case, the video is the Great River Rapport workshop in which I attended and is on YouTube. It is 55 minutes in length, but if you have time in class to watch it, it's pretty inspiring. So next, students are assigned to be the change maker. So in this case, they're going to step into the shoes of Christina. They're going to find a bug or a plant that interests them. So ideally, it's best to bring students outside and have them explore, but it can also be the dead of winter and you might be inside the classroom and realize there's not too much to see outside right now. But maybe you can open up, say, a Canadian Geographic magazine and pick an organism from there. Make sure the students are interested in it for sure. So after they choose their organism, they then will research it, just like Christina did. They'll research where it lives, what it eats, its challenges. Perhaps it poses challenges to other organisms. Perhaps it's invasive, for example. And then they will report on their findings. I like to use the word report lightly because we hope, and we actually give tips in these lesson plans to have students report their findings in a way that suits them best. Perhaps they'll report it through a TikTok, a slideshow, a podcast, a video recording. Have students report their findings in a way that suits them best so that they're still excited about it. If your students want to share their findings with Christina, you can actually go onto a social media platform and hashtag GRR, so Great River Rapport, Changemaker Series. So this hashtag's at the bottom left of the screen. And we will share those results with Christina if the students choose. So that brings us to our next changemaker. This is Kat Kavna, and the title of her case study is What Are You Designing? So she is the founder of Water Rangers. So this is a not-for-profit organization that has water testing kits. So it makes water testing kits more accessible with an open data platform for you to upload your data and for others to see it as well. The idea here is the more data we have about water, the better off the water will be so that we can identify any issues and address them. So Kat has a background in marketing, app, and web design. And she's always loved a specific lake that her family goes to every summer. She remembers her father going and testing the water and getting results back and thinking, but what do these results mean? So she always thought it'd be great to have some type of app or something to help interpret these results. So that kind of inspired Kat to go into the Aqua Hacking Challenge back in 2015. So this was a challenge where you address a freshwater crisis. So Kat proposed exactly her water testing kits in an open data platform and won the competition. And this is how Water Rangers was born. So this is what Kat's case study is about. You can see here we have our title page, we have the level of the Thanksgiving address, and then we have our case study. So we see our subheadings, we see our keywords, and we see the logo of Water Rangers. That brings us to Kat's learning activity. So for Kat's learning activity, I couldn't pick just one. And that's because she has really cool water testing kits that students could really benefit from in a classroom. But I also understand that these kits are not in every classroom yet. So there's two options. So the first one, water testing and report. Again, we're going to use the word report quite lightly here. So like the other case studies, there are discussion prompts. Why is this person a change maker? Inspire the students a little bit. There's also a video. So this video is actually by water rangers, and it's about 2 minutes in length, and it's about cat and water rangers and what inspired it. So then students are prompted to learn about water quality parameters. So they can do so 2 different ways. They can explore the water ranger site, either on their own or as a whole group in the class, or you can get in touch with an educator at the River Institute, such as myself, and I can visit your class virtually or in person if you're in this region. That would be Cornwall. And I can teach your class about water quality parameters and how to use the Water Rangers kit. And if that scheduling doesn't work out or you don't want to reach out, that's okay. Students can also learn to use the Water Rangers kit through the 20-minute certification course at Water Rangers as well. So it's short videos about the kit, a few questions, and then students are pretty well versed on how to use the kits. After they're familiar with the test kits and water quality, students then choose a fish off the website that will be linked in the lesson plan. So they'll choose a freshwater fish that interests them, and they'll note their different habitat thresholds. So what levels of pH they can handle, dissolved oxygen, and so on. After they have this information about their fish, they'll go and test the water of a water body near them. Maybe you'll all choose the water body that's really close to your classroom. Maybe you'll go on a field trip. Maybe there's going to be a vote on what lake to go to and so on. So they'll test the water and, of course, upload the results to the open data platform. And then they're going to report the results, but in the context as to whether or not their fish could survive in that habitat. And this allows students to understand why these results are important. Again, we use the word report lightly. We want students to report it in a way that they think is super exciting. So that brings us to option number 2. Option number 2 is likely best for grades 10 to 12. Again, there's discussion prompts. They are a bit different than for option 1. And there's 2 videos. So the same one as option 1, and then an aqua hacking challenge video. And that's to inspire students and get them in the know of what aqua hacking is and how it works. So after they watch the video, students explore the aqua hacking website. So they learn about the different freshwater crises that need to be addressed, and they can see the other projects that have been done. Students then get into groups or work alone, depending on their preference, your preference as a teacher, and design an innovative solution for one of the freshwater crises. So they design it, and then they can pitch it, present it to their class. Perhaps you'll have an in-house aqua hacking challenge competition. And we also recommend that you extend this by having students actually build their innovation. And again, if you would like to share this with Kat Kavanaugh, what you've done, please hashtag Great River Rapport Changemaker Series or email it to me, and I can share it with her and the team as well. So that brings us to our next changemaker. So this is Philip Ling, and the title of his case study is Powered by Nature. So Philip is a part of the organization Door Number 1 and is a part of the Maitland Tower Restoration Project. So Maitland Tower is a little tower on a site in Maitland, Ontario. It's a 13-acre site, and it's a historical site. So Philip had just retired, and he was biking from Ontario to the East Coast. And as he went by the site, he saw a for sale sign. And he thought to himself, it would be such a shame to see this beautiful site be developed into condos, which is likely to happen at this point. So as he's biking to the East Coast and he arrives, he thinks to himself, I'm going to buy the site and I'm going to make it a place for the community and ecological restoration. That's exactly what he did. He's doing so in collaboration with some pals at doornumber1.org as well. So that is the story in his case study. So we can see our title page, Powered by Nature. We have the level of Thanksgiving address. So Phil's is the people, because Philip brings together people all the time. And then we see our keywords, we see our subheadings, we see some links to explore doornumber1.org. And then you'll notice the picture at the end has a lot of people in it. So the learning activity for Phillips is based off this special day that took place at the Maitland Tower site in August of 2021. The restoration project that's taking place at Maitland Tower has been coined the term Dirty Paws Project. So it's the ecological restoration, and it benefits all the dirty paws that are there. So the idea is that students will take on and be the people that were present at this day. I was actually there, and this is what inspired this learning activity. So it starts off with the discussion prompts like all the others and a video. This video is still under development. It's going to be about 7 minutes in length, and it's about the Dirty Paws Project, the ecological restoration, and Philip Lang. So the idea is that we all came together at the Maitland Tower site, so a whole bunch of stakeholders, rights holders, and collaborators from the region, all different backgrounds. We had some conservation authorities, the River Institute was present, municipalities, and so on. So a whole bunch of people with different perspectives came. And we were all assigned to a different zone, as seen here. I was assigned to zone number 2. Okay, and then we discussed with the people that were also assigned to that zone what this zone could look like in the future. So ideas from my group, we had the manor house in ours, as you can see here, zone 2. And we're thinking perhaps we can sell honey from the beehive that's on the side in here. And then we thought, oh, we should have a buffer zone from the river, 30 meters, to help the environment, and so on. So students will be given collaborator cards, each one card. So this card will have the name of an organization and a work role. This will then have values of this organization work role. So for example, someone at the River Institute might value ecological restoration and a place for environmental education. So it will also have the website of that organization and a zone number to assign students to a zone. So after they all have a zone, they'll get together with their group and they will explore a story map. So this story map will have pictures from each zone to help students visualize it. Then students will collaborate and come up with ideas of what this zone should look like and have in it based on their assigned collaborator. After they're done, and this might take some time, so you might want to be flexible on how much time students need for this, they will then present their ideas to the others exactly like we did here. I remember sitting at this event and thinking to myself, wow, this would be a fantastic learning activity for students. If your students come up with ideas that they want to share with Philip, we absolutely recommend that you hashtag GRR Changemaker Series and share it with us, and we can share it with Phil. As well, Phil and the Door Number 1 team welcome field trips to their site. If you're from the region and you want to go and explore the site with your students and get them really excited and meet Phil maybe, we recommend that you reach out to Door Number 1 and try to have a field trip scheduled. So this brings us to our next changemaker. So this is Lawrence Gunther, and the title of his case study is Fishing for Change. So he is the founder of the Bluefish Canada organization, a not-for-profit that focuses on restoration and conservation of water bodies and very much fish health. So Lawrence is a blind professional angler, and he has 2 podcast series that he hosts. There's Bluefish Radio, which is done on Bluefish Canada, and there's Outdoors with Lawrence Gunther. Outdoors with Lawrence Gunther is in collaboration with his daughter, Lily, and they talk about different outdoor recreational activities that have to do with water usually, and accessibility outdoors. So this is Lawrence's layout. You can see the title page. We have the level of the Thanksgiving address. We have our keywords, our subheadings, and you can see there students are prompted to learn more about Bluefish Canada. And the photos you see here were a really fun day. So we were invited to meet Lawrence out on the ice while he was ice fishing. So we talked about ice fishing, we took photos, we met Lawrence's family and his dogs as well. So it was a really fun day. So for Lawrence's learning activity, this is a visual representation of it. Students will do the discussion points, and the video in which we recommend watching is a documentary by Lawrence called What Lies Below. It's an hour in length or so, but we recommend watching it as it gives a really good background on his work. So the learning activity for Lawrence is for students to create their own podcast with a change-making message. The change-making message can be flexible. Maybe you want it to be themed in a certain way in your classroom. Perhaps your students don't know enough about freshwater health and conservation to do it on that. Maybe it'll be climate change or a social issue in your community. It's up to you. And how will they learn how to make a podcast? Well, Lawrence created a podcast about how to make podcasts for students for this activity specifically. So he also created a podcast primer sheet for students to follow along. So they'll learn how to make a podcast and have a whole bunch of great tips. As you see here, each learning activity will also have a rubric. If you decide to evaluate students on this activity, it's a recommendation on maybe how you want to do so. Of course, it's just a recommendation if you'd like. And if you would like to share your podcast from your class with Lawrence and us, please hashtag GRR Changemaker Series. I'm sure he'd love to see them. So this brings us to two other change makers. So theirs are still under development. First up, we have Jessica Shenandoah. She is from the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne and is the camp coordinator apologies, at Thompson Island Cultural Camp. She is a forager and she knows medicinal plants really well. She also brings youth together to learn about their culture at Thompson Island. For her learning activity, students will learn about medicinal plants and then choose a medicinal plant that interests them and report on it. Again, we use the word report lightly, however they see fit. Next, we have Stephanie Hildebrand, and you might have heard this name a little bit earlier on. She's our visual artist at the Great River Rapport. The title of hers is Framing the Environment, and this is because Stephanie is a change maker through making different things interesting to people. So she can have a message that's maybe a bit daunting, but she makes it so interesting that people care about it. For her learning activity, people are going to make a visual story about something in nature that interests them. So there's more to come on these change makers. You can watch our social media page and website for more. Okay, so I've told you all about the Changemaker series, but where and how do you access them? So like I said, these materials are going to be accessible on our Great River Rapport website. Our website is about to be changed and these materials will be made accessible to you for free. So January of 2023, we will begin releasing one case study and learning activity per month. So first up in January, you can expect to see Lawrence Gunther's case study and learning activity available for you to bring into your classroom. So whenever they're released, you can find out through our River Rapport newsletter, which is you can sign up on our website. Follow our River Institute Facebook page. They will be announced there as well. And if you want to keep up to date with the process of how they're being made and whenever they are released, we can also interact through Twitter. You can see my handle there, and it's in my Hopin profile as well. And feel free to email me if you have any questions, suggestions, or so on about these materials or the Great River Rapport. Of course, like I've said probably too many times now, you can also hashtag GRR Changemaker Series to further interact about these materials. So in the meantime, there are lots of different ways that educators can interact with the River Institute and the Great River Rapport. So I mentioned our River Symposium prior. So this is taking place on October 26th in person in Cornwall and also being live streamed, and on the 27th. So often we actually have teachers stream this to in their classroom in grades as low as grade 5, from what I've heard. And we also have an education session on the 27th being streamed virtually. As well, you can check out our River Institute website. This is where you can find our education programs that are already being offered. So like I said, there are programs that take place in person, both in classrooms and at the River Institute and online. As well, there's more. The Great River Rapport does offer interactive workshops virtually and in person. So these are water quality workshops so far. So it's where I come to the classroom or virtually as well and teach students about water quality parameters and the Water Rangers kits. If you're interested in this, you can email me and maybe we can schedule a time to meet with your class. We will also be offering workshops to students about our technical reports. So coming soon will be our perch and our pike. So there's more to come on that. Again, you can watch our different social media platforms and websites for more on that. So that brings us to the end of today's presentation. Thank you so much for joining us. And we hope that you bring these case studies into your class to create change makers of tomorrow. If you have any questions, you can ask them now, and please feel free to interact with us through any of our online outlets.